Canada will open a new consulate in Greenland this week. Greenland is described as an autonomous territory of Denmark, and like Canada, Donald Trump has talked about wanting to annex the huge Arctic island and its 58,000 people. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand will open the diplomatic post on Thursday in Greenland's capital city, Nuuk. Her office hasn't said how many Canadian staff will work there, and the name of the Consul General is expected to be announced later on. Anand will be the first high-level Canadian minister to visit Greenland in years.
When we open a consulate in Greenland, we are expanding Canada's diplomatic footprint in another Arctic region. I've had numerous conversations with other foreign ministers of Arctic countries, and we all agree that now is the time to ensure that our collective will and footprint is placed in Arctic territory. Greenland's
government has said it hopes to open a consul in Ottawa, but hasn't said when that might be. Let's go to Greenland for reaction. Pele Broberg is an MP and joins us from the capital, Nuuk. And begin by telling us your reaction when you first heard about the Canadian consulate coming to Greenland.
Well, our first reaction was finally, because for a long time our cousins, families, our kins from Canada and Alaska as well, our Arctic Inuit cousins, they have been having connections to Greenland for a long time, but we've never had that close relation through the governmental level, which a consulate, of course, brings. So for the first reaction was, of course, finally.
And you only found out about this, what, yesterday?
Yeah, it was either yesterday or the day before. I'm not quite sure because we've had a busy week. But the official notification, I think, was yesterday, where we got an invitation for the Foreign and Security Committee to meet the Foreign Affairs Minister from Canada in connection with the opening of the consulate, where we were like, oh, great, we're having a Canadian consulate.
Catch us up for a moment on reaction to Donald Trump. I know he said months ago that U.S. needs Greenland, that he wants to buy it, and at the time there was quite a angry and defiant reaction by the people of Greenland. How are people feeling about Donald Trump these days?
Well, we've been treated worse and hurt worse from Denmark. So basically, I'm not sure how to explain it to Canadians. But I think the Canadians also have had a mixed review of how the current world affairs has played out. But if we're back to the business at hand, the consulate is another step in collaboration between the Greenlandic people and the Canadians. And I'm quite sure that the Canadians are also aware that the Americans has a consulate in Greenland already. They are our security allies, and they are actually the ones in charge of the defense of Greenland. So I'm quite sure that when all the dust settles, we'll be back to, let's call it business as usual, with regards to international borders and all that. But of course, the consulate opening in Nuuk by the Canadian embassy is very important for the relations between the Greenlandic people and the Canadians.
And why don't we finish with that in terms of what Greenland and Canada may gain from this, beginning with Greenland. What do you hope Greenland gets out of this?
Well, for a lot of years, we have had chargé d'affaires or kind of a consulate replacements that usually are Danish people living in Greenland, for instance, from Canada, appointed by Canadians. So right now, when we get a consulate, we'll see the first steps towards collaborations between Inuit, for instance. That's our hope. And we also will see a furthering of trade in the North American continent, because even though we are neighbors and we are close allies with the North American continent, we don't trade with them. We have collaboration with mining, fisheries, at least possibilities for it. So for that regard, I think most Canadians don't realize that the Greenlandic people are purchasing a lot of, let's call it snowmobiles and stuff from Canada, but everything is purchased through Denmark. Denmark is the filter through everything that comes from North America to Greenland. And I think the consulate will be one of the steps of rectifying that. And I do know the Canadians had a mixed review of what used to be NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. But that's something we've looked at with envy for years. That's something we've wanted to join for years. And now I think the Canadians might be able to help us out a little bit with securing trade with the North American continent.
Well, you've anticipated what would have been my final question, which is what Canada might gain here. And obviously, if trade increases, if relationships between Inuit people get stronger, those are things that will benefit both Greenland and Canada. So let me finish with this. Some Canadians might be surprised to hear at least you are interested in aligning Greenland from a trade perspective more with North America because, for the reasons you know, Canada is very uncomfortable with our trading ties with the United States right now, given Trump's rhetoric and his tariffs. Do you worry about those things at all?
Well, you have to look at it from our point of view. Our perspective is slightly different than the Canadians. We are currently tied to a small economy at the northern part of Europe, to Denmark. So all our goods are sailed more than 4,000 kilometers from Europe to Greenland. We are not trading with our nearest neighbors at all. So that means that our goods and everything related to Greenland is extremely expensive. And you have to remember, no matter your priorities, a government should always try to better the living standards of all its citizens. And if we're not trying to improve our trading routes, then what are we here for as a politician and as a government? So from our point of view, the rhetoric might be inflammable for the rest of the world or for a lot of people, but you have to separate politics from trade in that regard. You have to remember that living in Greenland is extremely expensive, and you have to figure out a way to lowering those costs. And since we've already tried to moving our time zone closer to the European continent without any improvement in living standard or any improvement in ticket pricing or goods prices, then we have to look at it realistically and say, well, what continent, which economy is closer to Greenland, the Canadian, US, or the Danish economy? And that answer is unfortunately quite simple for us. The North American economy is much closer to ours, but we don't have any history of trading with the North American continent. So that's why a consulate, in my humble opinion, hopefully will pave the way for furthering the trade between the North American continent as a geographic location, because Greenland is part of the North American continent.
Greenland MP Pele Broberg in Nuuk. Enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again. Thank you.
My pleasure.